It's a Friday edition here on Zero Block 30. And today we have 5 rounds of the magazine. Round number 1, we're going to get into a little bit of the inauguration, give you some of our thoughts on that, some of the people that are going into key positions. Because unlike the last one, when Trump took over, I think almost everybody in the military knew something about like people in the military post, like Department of Defense, like being the defense secretary. It was Mattis. Everybody knows who Mattis is. It was John Kelly. Everybody knew who he was. It was John Allen. Everybody. Some of these folks you might not know, so we're going to introduce you to some. Round number 2, would you rather take a hit on your military record or pay a small fine? We'd like to bring back the olden days where that was an option. There's a sign that was floating around on Reddit, so we're going to talk about that. Round number 3, Elon Musk shared his 6 rules of productivity that shows a little bit of divide between military and civilian workplaces. We're going to take his principles, see if we could apply it to the military, and if not, what would happen if you tried it? Some of them are you're in for a doozy. Round number 4. The 30th anniversary of Desert Storm was this past week, and we got some facts and history to share with you about that event. Round number 5, a U.S. service member has been arrested and charged in a plot to conspire with, that's right, folks, ISIS. He wanted to teach them how to conduct a little bit of an ambush on his fellow soldiers with all of the tactical experience that he gained as a, wait for it, PFC, and all that's going to be brought to you by our friends at Rocky Boots. Rocky Boots are built for the men and women. If you're a PFC who's trying to help out ISIS, you don't get to wear them, bitch. How about that? You don't get to wear Rocky Boots if you're trying to help out ISIS. I'll come over there, snatch those little boots off your little booties, and throw them into the ocean. That's what's going to happen. That's my promise to the listener. They're designed and built for the U.S. for each individual branch of the military. Most recently, they went side by side with our beloved United States Marine Corps. They have the tropical boot that's very compliant, and the boots are flash and water resistance too. You're going to love these boots. They're super comfortable, whether you're using them for military stuff or whether you look at the ones that are designed for work. They have construction boots. They have cowboy boots with steel toes. They have all kinds of stuff. Make sure you check it out and save 25% while you're at it at rockyboots.com. Enter the promo code ZBT at checkout. You're going to get 25% off. Once again, that's rockyboots.com. Enter the promo code ZBT. Let's get going with the show.
It's a Friday. Why not?
It is a Friday, and it's a big week here in America because we have the inauguration. I wonder what other countries think about us, like whenever we do our inaugurations, if they pay attention. I know they do a little bit, but like I can't imagine, and I guess this is just like the typical American way. There's no chance I watch a fucking prime minister of France like change out. Like I don't give a shit about that.
No, you might catch
French. I don't know French.
Yeah, you might catch like one snippet on the news, but you're not going to actually sit down for an extended period of time and watch the coverage. Not to mention, I don't know that I've ever seen coverage in any other country the way that we cover our inauguration.
No, the only way other countries get news for us is if it's like North Korea and they basically turn a corn silo upside down and put a tip on it and act like it's a fucking nuclear weapon.
Yeah, I think the only reason other countries might have been tuning in is because it's been such a clown show lately that if they were bored enough, they'd be like, well, let me see if anything weird's happening over there. But yeah,
I think it's kind of like whenever this is the first year that the Patriots have been bad, where casual fans will tune in just to watch the Patriots get their brains beat in because they had been good for so long.
Refreshing.
Other country are like, oh, the Patriots over there, they're fucking things up. Let us watch that too.
I will say other countries might have watched on the heels of 2 weeks ago that something again might have happened, and I am very grateful that regardless of if you like the new president or not, you should respect the process of inauguration and all that we do. That is great. So I was very happy to see that there wasn't any more insurrecting.
Having almost 3,000 troops on hand with their rifles at the ready, I think really helped out not having any of that type of thing go on. That was the funniest part. Would be like the peaceful transition to power. I'm like, dude, there's people with guns everywhere. Like, that's not exactly peaceful.
It was just that there was too many fences. But there was a lot going on. I just put some bullet points down for us to talk about real quick. Obviously, this is our oldest president. Our oldest president and our first vice president of color and the first second dude or second gentleman, as they're calling him.
Second gentleman. One note about Biden being old. I think that's one of the reasons why you had that thick ass Bible. You got to have a large print if you're old like Biden. And secondly, last night at about 9:30 Eastern time, there was this, that's 2130 for you military types. Whenever Biden went to the Lincoln Memorial for their celebration at the end, he kind of took a moment for himself, standing in the Lincoln Memorial and looking at the Lincoln statue. And somebody tweeted out, somebody help the president. He doesn't know where he is. It's past his bedtime.
Taking a little snoozer. Yeah.
One point about Biden's Bible that reminded me, I will admit, sometimes I will wear things, especially to formal functions, that are a little loud or flamboyant. And then I walk in. Well, that's the thing. I walk in as if like what why are you guys looking at me? Like, what's the big deal?
I thought everybody was wearing their super tight plum colored pants that show their ankles.
Yeah. That's what I got the vibe of when Biden walks in with this ginormous Bible, like Joe, like nobody's gonna say anything. Come on.
He's like the Crocodile Dundee, but with Bibles. Oh, that's not a Bible.
So that Bible. Biden is a practicing Catholic, and viewers right away took up, it's over 5 inches thick, bound with large metal clasps.
I would have said like 8 or 9. It's huge.
Huge. Biden said that had special meaning to him. It was part of his family. But people online had a field day with it. This guy, Josh Raby, said, Jesus, this dude is swearing in on the Elder Scrolls. Hassan Abi said, first edition signed by Jesus looking Bible. Like people were just.
My favorite one was, it's kind of cool that Joe Biden's swearing in on the Cheesecake Factory menu.
That's
interesting though. So does that make him only our second ever Catholic president?
Yes.
Behind
I think
JFK?
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
interesting. I always found that interesting because I guess, growing up Catholic, I just assumed there were more Catholics in the world. So you would have assumed there would be more Catholic presidents. So the fact that there's only 2.
There's definitely a lot of you fuckers.
It's just that we've usually got too much guilt to go into politics. We usually hate ourselves so much by the time we're 30 that it's a no-go. Another big thing of note, we talked about this on the Chaps and Kate on radio. Joe Exotic the night before. It was the final day for Trump's pardons earlier this week. Joe Exotic thought he was a shoo-in. We even had a member of his legal team, Eric Love, this Texas millionaire who was just obsessed with the show and decided to try and spring him. But the
turns out Joe Exotic was too gay for the pardon.
Yeah, Joe Exotic put out a tweet when he did not get pardoned that it was because he was too gay. And
gay with all caps.
Yeah, that's why he wasn't pardoned. But his legal team was so certain on Trump's last day he was going to get pardoned that a half mile from the prison,
everybody else who's trying to get somebody killed gets out. But you look at the gay dude with the tigers and no.
Yeah, he blamed it on his sexuality as to why Trump didn't choose him. They had a limo waiting. We talked to a member of his legal team who was like certain. He convinced me on the radio. I was like, they're going to get him out. Oh my God.
I think Gabe's going to do pro bono work on the legal team, actually.
Yeah, so there's that. Musicians like J-Lo and Lady Gaga performed. There was a viral meme. There was a Marine officer who walked Lady Gaga out, who she looked like she was from old Hunger Games head ass.
I wish you would have wore the meat dress. That would have been great.
That'd have been interesting. Or
the
choice.
Kermit dress.
Yeah. This Marine walked her out, and there's this photo of the Marine and her like making eye contact with each other. And people were tweeting things like, Gaga, this is
something, boy.
Yeah. Let me look at you one more time. People were tweeting, this is how you get asked to a Marine Corps ball, Lady Gaga. Don't do it. This is how the invites start coming in.
I liked the memes of Lady Gaga sitting there with President Joe Biden a couple days ago, where they're very formal picture, and it's, hey, your mother and I think it's about time you go out on your own. And I agree. Like those memes, I thought those were very funny.
Yes. A lot of good memes coming out of it, but a lot of musicians were performing. There's poetry, but I think the biggest musical act of all, if we could play that song, because if there's one thing that unites us, it was this song that they performed on the Hill right before the inauguration.
Beautiful, yeah.
Really beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Play it back.
Speaking of musical acts, my goodness gracious, Garth Brooks, you make me sick. Garth Brooks, you make me sick.
What?
This is the presidential inauguration. Put on a freaking suit and tie, okay?
Yeah.
I don't care that you're country and that you're wearing your boots to the black tie affair. No. put on a tie, look presentable. Garth Brooks, this is me calling you out. You make me sick.
Now, this is normally something that I would very much disagree with Cons, because it's Garth Brooks slander, and everybody knows Garth Brooks is probably my #1 favorite artist of all time. That being said, if Garth normally comes out and he's wearing jeans and cowboy boots and his little Western button-up shirt, I'm fine with it, because he's just saying, hey, I'm Garth. This is me. I'm not going to change for anybody, even the president. You can't have that attitude while also being so self-conscious that you end up getting hair plugs right before the inauguration. It's one or the other. You got to pick, I want to be low-key and not fancy, or you can't get the hair plugs. You can't do both.
I feel
Figure
like
it out, Garth.
it's tacky to show. I love it. You show up with hair plugs and jeans and boots to the wedding. You're like,
blame it
I
on
like
my roots. I showed up with new roots and ruined your black tie affair.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a bold move, chaps. I'm a fan. And finally, the other thing to go viral from yesterday was a photo of Bernie Sanders sitting alone on a folding chair
God bless him.
with
Bernie
giant
gets-
mittens on.
He gets so fucked. Like, I was watching this show on CNN on the election night, whenever they did the runoff with Ossoff and Warnock. Whenever they had that runoff going on, somebody on CNN said, John Ossoff will be the first Jewish senator in the United States. And it's like, Bernie and Joe Lieberman must be like, you don't see us? We're not here? You don't see me? I'm here.
And people were saying it doesn't get much more Jewish than this. People were talking about, like, this is my grandfather sitting kind of grumpily in this very specific
hungry, waiting for sundown.
Yeah, people were just absolutely roasting this photo, so that was going around.
Those mittens are just precious. I guess some woman made them for him 2 years ago, and he's been wearing them ever since. But those were just lovely.
And the only other thing people picked up on, he had gone super viral in another meme a few months ago because he did this ad in this coat outside where he's like, I'd like to talk to you about, and people picked up on that and were like, I'd like to talk to you about, and they'd put in whatever. He was wearing the same coat again.
He probably only has one coat.
Yeah. People were just having a field day with it.
Where's my coat? I gotta find my coat.
Yeah, that's what he sounded like. Yeah. And then finally, a lot of people noticed a lot of the women were wearing purple yesterday because it is a combination of red and blue, showing unity was the idea behind that, apparently. So
I will say that the ladies yesterday, Dr. Biden, Michelle Obama, who else was? Anyway, they all Hillary. Who's the? Oh, and I'm sorry, Vice President Harris. Individually, they all look stunning. I thought their outfits were regal. They were very beautiful. All of them. They looked amazing. But it looked, when they all stood together, it looked, I don't know, like
Are you about to complain about the color combo?
Yep, here we go.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Just all the solids, it just looked like a children's cartoon or something. All of them standing next to each other with the solid colors head to toe. I don't know. It looked like a cartoon.
Let it out.
But
Kate.
they all looked
breathe.
amazing.
Let it out, Kate.
Final question to you guys. You can get sworn in on any book, but it can't be the Bible. What are you doing? What book you going with?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I would probably go with my Green Monster from boot camp. Like, just all my knowledge. I would swear in on that.
Okay, I like that. Cons?
I would go with The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein because that exemplifies everything I would want to do for the country.
Give out everybody apples. That's nice.
Give everyone apples. Kyle?
Let them make a boat out of me.
Wow.
I don't know what I would do. Probably a Dr. Seuss book because people on the internet fucking love Dr. Seuss books.
Good point. That's
got to go viral if I'm president.
You can't. It used to be for our generation Harry Potter, but she got canceled. So
right. I'm gonna go with the edition of Playgirl with Burt Reynolds naked on the cover on that bearskin rug. Yeah, I would wink at the camera. I'm like, I'm here to lead, but I'm also here to fuck.
Now, what about if you could combine a book and the author of that book is the one who issues the oath of office? Because I think that switches it up.
That changes. That's a horse of a different color. Goodness gracious.
Well, I feel like you're testing me right now.
Okay. I want you to go.
I got
it. Okay,
Can they be dead? Can they be dead?
Yeah,
yes.
of course. Oh,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
I prefer they be dead, actually.
I would do the screenplay from season 2 Cathedrals of the West Wing with
Oh,
Mr.
that's a
Aaron
good one.
Sorkin swearing me in.
Mhm.
Whoa.
That's a good one.
I'll
Okay.
do. Think of a lady author. Think of a lady author. Mark Twain.
I would like to do Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice because it means so much to me.
Yeah, that's the one.
When I read it in 8th grade, it really
If
spoke
not
to me,
her, I would
so-
definitely pick Emily Dickinson. I'm a huge Dick fan.
Actually, I would have a 3D telegram of myself, swearing myself in because I'm a
Oh, very
blogger. I'm a
meta.
writer.
Mm-hmm.
So
True. Just print out all your blogs and swear it on that.
yeah.
I think that's what Trump should have done. Just printed out all his tweets and swear it on that. Kyle, what about you?
So I got to go with "War as I Knew It" by General Patton. I just think
Ooh.
getting him on stage, he'd get it done, and he'd probably tell someone to fuck off, which would be great.
And he'd be dressed to the nines because everybody knows he had a flair for
He
looking a certain
loved
way.
making up uniforms, kind of weird,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
Dwight Schrute. But
Well, speaking
God
of the
bless him.
troops,
Wait, you don't want to know what mine is?
We
no.
of course do, chaps. I do. Screw
My-
these two. I do.
Mine would be Julia Child and the Joy of Cooking.
Welcome to the inauguration.
I do solemnly swear off that I will support the Constitution.
Who cares if she's not
Set
American?
anything up. Don't worry. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Patton and the troops, speaking
True.
of Julia Child,
And the troops.
More than 25,000 National Guard members from all 50 states, 3 territories, and DC were supporting the 59th inauguration, 46th president, 59th inauguration, because there was a couple deaths.
Kate and I
along the
talked
way.
about this a little bit last night on radio. How long do you guys think you have to be president under the 25th to count? Because we know that Cheney took over for a little while when W had an operation. HW took over for a little while whenever Reagan got shot and he was under general anesthesia. I wonder what the time is, like how long you have to be in office to be considered a president.
I would say 1 full day, 24 hours.
I think I go a week. I think I would say a week.
You
Okay.
gotta go. I'd say a week too. Yeah, I don't know what the rules are on that, but yeah, we've had 59.
And I'll never look it up.
And some of those inaugurations where there was one at I forget who, maybe it was after McKinley died. That inauguration was like 2 a.m, all alone, with the new president's father was a notary public. I forget which president that was. Anyway, but Homeland Security was working with all of its 200 partners, including National Guard troops, 14,000 police officers and law enforcement officers, 5,000 DoD employees. So yeah, not too shocking that nothing happened yesterday. Amid the heightened security downtown, no major protests, no word on how long they're going to be there. One of the big kerfluffles earlier in the week was, can you guys explain route stepping guy? That was all over Twitter, all these troops. Veteran Twitter is a fickle place with usually a lot of needless drama. Every week there's something new that a bunch of veterans on Twitter are arguing over. This time it was marching. What started that?
Yeah, so there was this video that started going around where they were showing the National Guard troops doing a route step march where they had their weapons there crossbody muzzle down whenever they were marching, which probably isn't the way that you should march whenever you're moving in formation. You should probably go strong side muzzle up is what you should do. But this is a point that he was making, that it was a lazy point in leadership, that people were getting flagged, that it was unsafe weapons handling, and he was just going on and on.
This
Well, in
one
reality-
know-it-all on Twitter.
Yeah, so but it was really just this one dude named BA who writes for the strategic website, like where they talk about policy and shit like that. And almost no one agreed with them. They're like, come on, dude, they're just troops in movement. It's, of course, like they're moving from one point to another. If you're trying to tell me, because this guy was saying in the Marines, we would never do that. If you're trying to tell me that no formations where you're moving troops ever have the accordion effect, you're a fucking liar. Every formation when you're route stepping has the accordion effect. Everyone.
Yeah, it just happens. And, I don't think that they were concerned about what they were looking like, clearly.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal.
And then the big misstep that he made when he was talking about their missteps in formation was that he said, it's lazy. It's a lazy type of leadership that allows this sort of formation. This is why we have a sexual assault problem in the military, because people don't call out errors when they see it. And everybody was like, okay, guy, okay, that's a fucking enough. And then he had to come out and apologize for it the next day, per usual.
Yeah.
One thing I think that I've learned over the years, don't compare stuff to Hitler. You're always going to look like an asshole when you compare stuff to Hitler. 2, don't compare anything else that's going on in the military with the sexual assault that's going on in the military. You always look like an asshole.
Yeah, I would say so. So yeah, that guy was getting roasted online. And don't jump on the troops if you're a troop and you see that they're in a weird spot. It's like, leave them the fuck alone. A couple other things, then we'll move on. The new VA secretary. Who is he, everyone? Right now, we have a temporary one, Dat Tran. He's the top VA expert in strategic planning and infotech, and he's just holding on to the spot for now until...
If you were Dat Tran, what song would you walk out to?
I know you already have an answer, so why don't you just tell us?
Ooh, Dat Tran. No?
Can't you tell that train? Ooh, that train.
Cringing real hard right now. I don't
Why?
know.
It sounds so close.
But President Joe Biden has named Dennis McDonough as who he tapped to be the new VA secretary. And he's waiting for confirmation from the Senate. Have you ever heard of him, Dennis McDonough, guys?
Oh, yeah. Dennis McDonough. Yeah.
Big, long-time stoolie. Minnesota guy, football guy. He was formerly Obama's chief of staff, managing over 4,000 White House staff on domestic policy, NatSec, blah, blah, blah. He was among the small group in the White House Situation Room on May 1st, 2011, when SEALs raided the bin Laden compound. He's been teaching at Notre Dame since 2017. So
yeah, he was the dude who took over as chief of staff after Rahm Emanuel left.
Yeah, he is the second.
To me, real quickly, working in the White House is very akin to college and NFL coaching in that it's all very incestuous. It's like if you get in with one, you can kind of stick around for a while, and then you can even get fired, but maybe come back with another head coach / president.
Well, DC
and
is
you
a
could
whole.
just stick around. Yeah, DC is a whole.
is just the old revolving door. But he's the second non-veteran. If he gets the green light, he will only be the second non-veteran to lead the Department of Veteran Affairs. Do you guys think that? Part of me almost thinks it could be a plus to have somebody with an outside view. I don't know.
No, you're exactly right. I do not think it needs to be a prerequisite to be a veteran to run the organization such as the VA, because when it comes down to it, the VA is very similar to a lot of businesses in that there's just so much infrastructure and there's so much bureaucracy that I would not be opposed to having someone who has the experience dealing with all of that kerfuffle, as we've said. So I don't hate it that they don't.
I don't care. I mean, it's not like he's going to have to go out there and have like a battalion formation with everybody in the VA. As long as you are a capable person able to lead a large organization, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I don't
listen.
Care
so long as you can deal with everybody, all the veterans on Facebook crying that you're not a veteran, once you get past that, I think you're okay.
And then the new Secretary of Defense, just a guy named Kenny from Terre Haute. So they just picked a random guy.
It's an interesting choice to be sure, but I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I'll give him a shot.
Yeah.
Did you guys see President Clinton? I saw something that he fell asleep, but I get that. I mean, you've been to one inauguration.
They're all old. They're nestled in their little coats. It's cold. It's windy. They're old. Fuck them. They're old. They're gonna fall asleep. No offense to the old.
I get it. It's fine.
Round number 2.
Yeah, round number 2.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Round number 2 is going to be brought to you by our good friends at Kenai. Kenai is this new, they make all kinds of different like tactical backpacks that you can have. They sent some super high quality stuff. I was normally, whenever there's like a company that comes out and like, oh, we're making rucksacks and shit like that, I'm like, oh God, this is going to be terrible quality. It's going to be like single stitched and all that. That is not what Kenai is. It came, it is super nice. I wish I had the fortitude to go and strap on and see how much it could carry. I bet it carries a lot because it seems really high quality. You're going to like it. It comes with free shipping over orders over $75 and orders over $35 into free interest. You can make it like Afterpay. Like if you use Afterpay, have you ever used Afterpay?
When I discovered Afterpay, that was the worst thing that could have happened to me ever in life, because now it used to be I had some sense and say to myself, well, this is a little too expensive. I don't necessarily need this right now, But then when you chop it up into 4 equal payments, it's like, well, of course I can afford this now.
Yeah,
So,
especially
that
if they
was
because
bad.
usually they used to get you with it's not interest free. These are 4 easy interest free payments that you can use. Kenai has also been used all over the world and has confirmed firsthand stories of their backpack serving effectively in active war zones with members of the U.S. military and primary packs of Special Operations Wing and Secret Service. Go to Kenai progear.com. That's CANNAE Pro Gear and get yourself the best backpack ever. Use the promo code ZBT15 for an additional 15% off. It's going to be a great deal. Again, that's CANNAE progear.com. You're going to love this stuff. I promise you'll enjoy it. I do. And McCartney has been throwing in all kinds of Nerf darts and all kinds of shit into it. And McCartney looks like a legitimate operator when it's Nerf gun time. I mean, 3 Nerf guns sticking out the backpack, 1 tied to their hip and ready to go with just an absolute sack full of ammo. I mean, dominating the kids in the neighborhood. Let's move on to round number 2. This one's a little bit of military finds.
A little bit of military finds. Chaps sent me a photo. Where did you find this photo, Chaps?
It was on actually the Air Force Facebook page. It's this group on, I think it's like Airman NCO and Staff NCO. They have it out there. So what this sign is, it's just this huge sign that's out in front of what looks like a barn or a warehouse on the old bases that they would just have like a
40 something. It's a black and white photo. It looks very, very old.
Yeah, it's probably the 40s or maybe even the 30s. Just chilling outside this old barn, and it's very simple. It looks like a gunny yelled at somebody to told him to go shit them a sign that has all this stuff on it because everybody's fucking up. This sign it's just a big square sign that says on the top in bold letters, "Keep your record clean!" ! So that tells me right there it's not a Marine thing. Do you remember, Kate or Kyle probably can speak to this more so than Kate? We don't use exclamation points in the Marine Corps.
No,
you're not allowed to.
Razzle dazzle. Yeah.
No, that's why I think it's so funny on the Air Force counseling when the first line after it explains what they do, and then line 2 is, "You are hereby reprimand," and it's like exclamation point. That looks so silly.
They use emojis too. I heard.
Oh yeah, they love to.
Yeah, they
hereby
do.
reprimand exclamation point eggplant emoji. Is what they usually do. But the sign goes on to say, average fine by summary court-martial for the following offenses has been failing to salute. That's a $4 fine. Improper uniform, $4 fine. No dog tags, $3 fine, which I don't understand how no dog tags and improper uniform aren't the same thing because it's a uniform item. You're out of uniform if you don't have your dog tags. No bicycle lights. That's a $10 fine. So they still wanted you to wear a glow belt of sorts, even back in the 30s or 40s. This is probably like the general rule of court-martial where it's like the catch-all. Committing nuisance. That's a $5 fine. That's a slippery slope.
It's running through the house with a pickle in your mouth, my friend.
Yeah, misbehaving. That's what it should be. Misbehaving, yeah. And
I like that too because I'm sorry, just real quickly. I like that too because usually someone's called a nuisance. You don't really hear too many people committing nuisance. Right. It's different.
Committing.
Yeah, that's true. And the last one, speeding for $10. So they have these fines. This is not something that we have now. Like it's almost like the locker room fines in the NFL where you're breaking team rules and shit like that. The only thing that we really have now is that you withhold some pay, not like a fine.
Yeah, and I looked this up because it says average fines by summary court. And I looked up summary court-martial is the lowest level of court-martial available. And it's designed to resolve quickly and in-house. So it doesn't go any higher kind of thing. So the person facing the charges has fewer rights. It's pretty much you're probably guilty if you're getting one. But the punishment is much, much lower. It's streamlined so commands can deal with this like small infractions like committing nuisance.
This was NJP before NJP. Summary court-martial is still a thing. Summary special general, if you remember the ditty from boot camp, Kate, is the way that it goes. But summary, if you deny NJP for something minor, normally you're going to go to summary.
And you'll get a smaller thing, but you're probably going to be found guilty kind of thing. So back then, that whoever's command this was, they dealt with summary court-martial with tiny fines, which back in the day, looking at how old this photo is, $10 was probably like $60. So, you know,
Yeah, I
like,
mean, that's
so
a
inflate.
lot. It was probably a lot of money back then. You're right. The ones that are surprising to me, I don't understand why failure salute is such an issue. Like, I've never seen that as being like an issue where people aren't saluting when they should be in proper uniform. I can see that one being a problem. But a lot of these, like no bicycle lights, $10. My God,
My
that's
goodness.
steep.
Must have been a lot of bicycle crashes back then for them to get to this point. Well, so I would like you guys to we're going to do a little summary court martial. We have a soldier who's been screwing up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have a Marine who's been screwing up. I need you guys to put some prices. How much money are the fines going to be for these things? First off, sleeping through PT.
Ooh.
I would say $100.
$100.
I was gonna say 75, but I'm good with 100.
Okay, wearing your sea bag and dog tags out in town with an unironic cowboy hat and boots.
That's
you actually
worse.
get $25 for that.
Okay, it gives the town a certain je ne sais quoi. I appreciate it. All right, chaps, this one's for you. Using an umbrella in the rain.
Reduction in rank to private and all benefits forfeited.
Okay, eating all your roommates' Hot Pockets and then leaving the trash out on field day morning.
Soap party, actually, for that one.
I was gonna say full-blown court-martial.
Okay, so not even a dollar amount, physical harm.
Yeah, just a soap party, yeah.
Not helping your partner cheat on PFT sit-ups.
Oh.
And you're the partner, you get to fine them.
I think that's a $50 fine.
$50 fine. Yeah, you get $50 for that. Like, screw you, but give me $50 and I'll let it go. Asking a question at the end of a Friday safety brief.
That's an administrative discharge, actually.
Yeah, I would say execution, possibly.
Whoa.
Grinding on the 3 stars wife at the Marine Corps ball. And we're talking, you've got
that's actually a meritorious promotion.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a medal. That's a medal of sorts.
Make her feel alive for the first time in years, or him.
Or him. Consent is consensual. They're into it. He or she is like, oh, actually.
I mean, you can be a 3-star and still be a cook.
Absolutely, you could. Oh, yeah. That might be a nice release for you. Eating all day, somebody else come bang my spouse.
Look at this young bull of a Lance Corporal.
Yeah, exactly.
Come and give him a ride of her life.
Correct
Let
terms
the
She's
boy
gonna need to go
watch.
to the motorcycle safety brief after all that.
And then showing up to the ball completely intoxicated and being kicked out during the salad course.
That's actually that's the same thing as going to the Crucible. That's when you really become a Marine.
See?
Yes,
See? Where
No
were you
fine.
in 2009 when I could have used you, chaps?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no fines for that one, but I wouldn't mind going back to that. I honestly, as a young Marine, I would rather be like, here, take $50 than get fucked.
Yeah,
with
but
for
the
a whole
problem
day.
with that, if you do $50 fine for PT, I think you're gonna have a lot of people that just be like, fine, I'm just not going to unit
Yeah.
PT anymore.
Honestly,
I
that's
guess
not
I
a
won't
bad
go out
idea
Friday. Yeah.
to raise money for the Marine Corps balls.
Oh, we used to do that. It was very illegal, but we used to do it.
Oh yeah.
You're not
we used
supposed
to have a high-ranking Marine take us all the way out to 29 Palms to work on construction sites on the weekend for free, and he was like, "That this money will go towards your ball tickets." We were like in construction gear, cleaning out.
And the thing, you're like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
I guess that's what we'll do.
I probably did like $1,000 worth of hard labor in the hot desert sun for a ball ticket. So yeah.
Well, if you were
Okay.
Elon Musk and talking to him, he would tell you to just walk out when you're doing that type of thing. Because in round number 3, we're going to talk a little bit about his principles of leadership and how he leads his company. Elon Musk, richest man in the world.
In the world, a lot of money.
Good for him.
Turn the electric
$180
car
billion.
and all that kind of stuff into one of the world's most valuable companies. But very productive fellow. There's no denying it. Love it or hate him. The guy is a very productive fella. And in an email that leaked to the public, the Tesla CEO outlined 6 recommendations for his employees to make the best use of their time. And military.com did an article saying, looking at his 6 recommendations for employees, it shows there's very clearly a civilian military divide. So let's go through these and point them out.
All right. Number 1, no large meetings. They say sometimes the military requires an all hands meeting or some other kind of all call. Unlike many large companies, military units deal with life or death situation, which is actually a good reason to have a large meeting. It's not that serious. Musk says don't have it. I actually think that that's spot on. I can't think of a time that I went to a large scale battalion formation where you hear anything that could remotely affect your day-to-day life.
Yeah, this is like the epitome of, this could have been an email.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he says, please get rid of all large meetings unless you're certain they're providing value to the whole audience. And normally in these huge military meetings or whatever, there's maybe only like 10 people in the room who it's really relevant to. And then it can be passed down more simply in other ways, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like military or any space, the ability it takes to capture the attention of a large group is, I think, something that's very unique that not a lot of people possess. So even if you think whatever information you have is good for the entire group, you're probably not going to convey it in such a way that you're going to get everyone's attention.
Well, that's the issue with military leadership, is that you have these delusions of grandeur where you think that everything that you say, people should be waiting on bated breath for, like that you just have all life's answers and you want to give it out to everybody and anybody who is willing to listen, when normally you're kind of a fucking idiot. Like you're just repeating things that you've heard. You haven't done any research on your own. You're just repeating phrases that you heard from, I don't know, movies like A Few Good Men. And that's how you modeled your leadership style after. Round number 2, no long meetings. The military has well-intentioned short meetings, but if Musk learned what a stand-up meeting is, he'd probably be implemented that practice of not being able to sit down all over his companies. He's saying basically that a lot of times, and I think this is not just military, this is great advice for anybody. People act like in order for it to be important, it has to take up a lot of time. And I don't think that's necessarily true.
I think part of it, he's like, get in, get out, say what you have to say, get in, get out. Part of the problem is that we have these huge, large meetings and it's like, well, we've taken the time to assemble everyone here. We might as well stretch it out and make it last, because it's like,
you know what, the other thing, and especially in corporate America, and I've seen this, when they get lunch ordered and there's these big comfy chairs and they're trying to make you comfortable to where you have to be there for a long time. If you just got rid of all that extra stuff and you didn't make everyone just so darn comfortable that they didn't want to leave, you could probably be a lot more productive.
And the next one is, I think, the one that would not ever work in the military. This just won't happen. Number 3 is don't be afraid to leave. Kate, what does he say about that?
Yeah, don't be afraid to leave a meeting. And military.com's like, okay, try leaving a meeting when your squadron commander's still speaking and tell me how that goes. But Musk says, walk out of a meeting or drop off a call as soon as it's obvious you're not adding value. If your part's done and you know that the rest of it doesn't pertain to you, dip out, you're fine. That would never work in the military. And
how do you know the rest of it doesn't pertain to you? That's what exactly. I think.
A question could pop up later and they're like, oh, wait. Chaps left.
Yeah, like if I'm on there and we're talking all as a group and Erica at the end is like, Chaps, explain what you're doing here. And I'm already dipped out because I need to go play fishing with Carl again. I think Erica might be upset with that.
Yeah, that's a toughie. I feel like that's for way higher level people. I don't know.
I find that to be rude. I mean, that's not just meetings, just like a conversation in general. Like I'm just going to walk away now.
Number 4, don't use acronyms. I'm not going to get into basic. We know that would never work in the military. Number 5, communication is not subject to chain of command. Basically, he's like, the one giant game of telephone is communicating through a chain of command. Make it easier. So make that would also never work. And then 6, this would never work either. Use common sense. We're never going to do it. Sorry, Elon, we're not interested.
Yeah. Okay. The only one about number 5, I think could work is they implemented, if you have something to tell somebody well above you in the chain of command, at least just CC everybody else. So they don't have to forward on. Just CC everybody else in your chain of command so they know what you're doing. That's what I do when I email my kids' teachers. I CC my wife. So she is in the loop.
Smart move. I like it. But yeah, that's a little bit of a divide. So if you're getting a job at Tesla after your time in the military, be prepared to enjoy it much more. It sounds
now, what if you're interviewing with Elon Musk and he starts asking you a question? You just get up and leave and be like, none of these pertain to me. This has gone on too long. There's too many people in this room. None of this pertains to me. I'm out.
I'd drop an acronym. I'd say, this is snafu, guys. I'm out.
Exactly.
Right. I have a question for you. This is really just like your guys' opinion. Obviously, Elon Musk, very successful. He's the richest man in the world. So he's done something right. But do you think he is a good leader?
I think
I think it remains to be seen. Like, I don't know his day-to-day life, so it would be hard. I think that sometimes you can be put in those positions because you're so dogmatic about your approach and you're ruthless and you don't care about people. You can rise to those ranks by doing that, or you can rise to those ranks by being like a people person and really care about mentoring. Like, you see different sides of that in Bill Gates's documentary when he talks about his early days at Microsoft, where he didn't give a fuck about what anybody else said. It was going to be the way that he wanted to do it in his team. But now he's moved on, and he said that Microsoft is a much better company because he's willing to mentor those below because he doesn't have that fear of somebody overtaking him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. We got to wait and see. But I just don't think. I think too often people, as we said, just like in the military with rank, just because you've achieved something does not necessarily translate into good leadership. So the jury is still out, Mr. Musk.
Well, we're seeing that a shit ton lately. I think that this is a good wake-up call for Americans, is that you look at, I think growing up, and we've talked about this when we've gone to the Capitol building and stuff like that, you see people that are in the positions of congressmen, senators, presidents, judges, and you think these people are all brilliant. And it's the same thing when you're in the military. In order to be a 3-star or to be a sergeant major, you have to be squared away. And I think that we're seeing now, maybe that's not the case. Like,
No, you can be a total dickhead. You can be
I mean,
a total
there's been
loser.
some congressmen that we talked to and we're like, dude, you are, I don't know if anybody's told you this, but you're like legit dumb. Like, you're not a smart person at all.
We're actually very surprised how you even got into this position, to be very
I'll
honest.
say it, Duncan Hunter. My jaw was
Yeah.
on the floor. I was like, how the fuck did you?
I mean, when we sat down in Duncan Hunter's office, he's like, you guys want to play PlayStation? We're like, what the fuck are you talking
What?
about?
Yeah.
Oh,
What are you
you
doing?
don't want to play PlayStation right now. I do want to swipe one on with Roman, though, because I saw somebody that was willing to give me a jump. Roman are clinically proven way to last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting. They don't require a prescription. Kate, your ad read for them on the swipe up was unbelievable. Well done.
I'm clearly a lady who has sex, so take it from me.
Yeah, and they are tiny. They almost look like a little moist towelette that you would get whenever you're trying to wipe your fingers clean of buffalo sauce. But instead of wiping them clean, you're trying to get some sauce on that thing.
Mhm.
They're super easy to use. Just take the swipe out of the packet, let it dry, and you're good to go. Go to GetRoman.com/0. You get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/0. I honest to God think, because of what Roman's done, think about all the different ad reads that we've had for Roman, the different types. We've had, like, I think they have hair stuff. They have boner stuff.
Men's health in general.
They have health. Why isn't Roman the one that's giving out COVID vaccine?
A fair question. A fair question indeed.
It's the only COVID vaccine you swipe on your penis, and it's
I think that's
activated
going to
by
be the
intercourse.
next one that we do. GetRoman.com/0 if you want to get your second round of the COVID vaccine for free. That's GetRoman.com/0. They're not going to actually do that, but they will make you have a boner that lasts forever, which is fucking dope. Let's move on. Let's move on to round number what? 4? Yeah,
We're in
4.
round number 4. And this one, I put this on here because I was so woefully ignorant. Kyle does a great job of putting these historical markers on the Zero Blog 30 Instagram, if you don't follow it, with a couple pictures to swipe through and really interesting history recap. And the Gulf War, okay, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, it was only 30 years ago. The anniversary of the start of it was this past week. I was sitting there and I was like, I know nothing about this. Like, truly, I don't know who, what, when, where, why, and I should. I'm sure most military people do. I didn't. And so I wanted to put some factoids out there because it was such a, looking at the videos from it and all the missiles flying and blah, blah. I was like, whoa, I kind of went down a rabbit hole. So
Yeah, there was a tweet thread that went around a couple of weeks ago that was asking, I think it was right after January 6th happened, and people were asking, what was the first major news story that you remember happening? And for me, it was the initial shock and awe of Desert Storm. I think I was 8 or 9 years old at the time. And I remember watching and looking at all the bombs that were flying into Baghdad and the Patriot missiles and the Scud missiles and hearing about all those things. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like, this is unbelievable.
I remember that.
Same.
I definitely remember that. And our neighbor, the first like military thing in my life that I knew, we had these neighborhood kids that were really good friends with my brother, and they came over to the house all the time, and their dad got deployed to this. And so
same thing. My best friends, Louie and Norby, their dad was a Marine and got deployed.
Yeah, my dad and one of the other neighbors made this video.
Wait, Louis and Norby?
Mhm.
Louis and Norby?
Mhm. And they're identical
such a good name.
twins.
I remember our neighborhood like making a video for like this funny like goodbye video for him, where my dad, and one of my other neighbors are like low crawling through the field, keeping the neighborhood safe while he's gone, and like blah blah blah. But like I remember it was a big thing, but I didn't quite understand why. So put some facts down here.
Wait, before I want to tell you a story about Louis and Norby.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Louis and Norby were my best friends when I was in Patuxent River, Maryland. When my dad was in the Navy, we were stationed there. But I had always been around nothing but Navy folks. Like my dad he worked in the aviation side of the Navy, where he was a flight engineer. So like the person that touches all the different controls and is like the assistant to the pilot, essentially. Louis and Norby's dad was a Marine, and it was the first Marine that I ever went around. Their mom was from Japan. Like he had met in Okinawa and brought back, and now they're raising a family together. So going from my Navy house to their house when I would go play was so unbelievably different in the way their dad was like he was either a gunny or a master sergeant. He had been in for a long time, and going into their house was like legitimately terrifying, like seeing there. And then I was raised so Southern Baptist, and they had like this Buddhist shrine that was in their dining room. And so I walked in, and it was like going to a different world. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is unbelievable. And then I saw their dad. The next time I had seen their dad, probably the only time I really remember somebody going to war before I joined, his dad had like the sea bags out, like the traditional green sea bags lined up with his name written on it and everything. And he was like, yeah, we're getting ready to ship out to Kuwait soon. And I remember looking at his kids, and his kids were like nervous. And I was like,
yeah,
oh God, dude, I hope my dad doesn't have to do that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Louis and Norby coming this fall on Nick
Long
Jr.
time stoolies, yeah.
I wish I was having twins so I could name them Louis and Norby. Quite honestly,
Lewis and Norbert, if you want to get fancy with it.
I absolutely love it. But for a quick recap, August 2nd, 1990, Saddam Hussein, he led a well-equipped Iraqi army into Kuwait, a major supplier of oil to the U.S. And I'm going to put this in Kate terms. This was like a huge stab in the back to us because we'd given Saddam and the Iraqi military aid during its 8-year war with Iran. And we like totes gave Iraq the 4th largest army in the world at the time, which is huge. Iraq had the 4th largest army in the world at the time. I had no idea. And now that they were acting up and messing with Kuwait, this also posed a threat to Saudi Arabia, another major exporter of oil. And if Saudi Arabia fell, Iraq would control 1/5 of the world's oil supply. And Saddam Hussein, not the guy you want doing that. So we went in to set him straight. NATO, everybody agreed, let's go fuck him up, fam. And with the backing of 39 other countries who donated troops, logistics, or money to the cause, we went in there and fucked shit up. Did I give a good enough recap there?
You did, but
and
the patty camouflage that they used to have back in the day.
Beautiful cow patty camouflage. That was another thing that stands out in my mind about that war was that camouflage pattern.
And it was the image that you have of that uniform is Colin Powell, General Schwarzkopf.
Yes, honest to God, yes, absolutely. More than 500,000 American troops deployed to Saudi Arabia as part of Operation Desert Shield. So over 500,000 troops were mobilized in like the.
God, that's way more than I would have thought.
Yeah, in case Iraqi troops attacked Saudi Arabia. On January 17th, 1991, it went from Desert Shield to Desert Storm.
And I need to say something about that. Once you name something one thing, you can't be changing it around. You can't start changing campaigns. It should always and forever be the Iraqi Campaign Medal. Operation Enduring Freedom is Afghanistan. Let's stop switching up the campaign names.
Well, the reason, so it was just a shield. We were just kind of hanging out and blocking, but then it became a storm when diplomacy failed. We're like, all right, motherfuckers, we're putting the shield down.
In modern terms, we would call that, we decided to go over there and release the Kraken.
Right. Operation Release the Kraken would be what it was. It became the largest air campaign since our conflicts in Southeast Asia. There were more than 18,000 air deployment missions, 116,000 combat air sorties. 116,000. Isn't that when sorties are when planes are going at each other?
Yeah. I think it's not. What's a sortie? Just a mission?
Oh,
Just
I
a
guess.
mission.
Oh,
it's
just
Yeah,
a
it's just a
mission.
mission.
Well,
Yeah.
they
they're
need to
not
call it something
dogfighting.
else. A sortie?
I'm like 116,000 dog fights in the sky. Holy
Imagine
shit.
being the first fighter pilot. Be like, what are we going to call this mission?
Sortie.
Sortie. I sort of don't know. Oh, sortie. Good. We'll write that down. No, that's not what he said. He said, I sort of don't know right now.
Yeah.
And now we're stuck
Yeah.
with it.
88,500 tons of bombs. And when you see how short this was, that all becomes even more impressive. The air attacks only lasted for 6 weeks. So all that happened within 6 weeks. And then the ground campaign was only 100 hours before Kuwait was liberated from Iraq. Start to finish, Desert Storm was only 43 days, January 17th to February 28th, 1991. And that's with over 500,000 troops.
And people were pissed because it took longer than HW had said it was going to.
Yeah, imagine that. My God. In this 20-year war, imagine.
It's been 84 years.
Yeah, exactly. Desert Storm saw the first use of the Patriot missile system in combat, where it was used to intercept Scud missiles. It was also the first time the Air Force used stealth and space systems against air defense. So we were starting to get real high tech in this war.
Is Scud missile the most famous missile from an adversary that we've had, like as far as the normal person knowing the vernacular?
I remember the little boys in my neighborhood. It was Scud missiles was what, when they were playing.
It's a fucking great name. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah, it is.
but luckily we came back and we were like, oh, you got the Scud? How about we got the fucking Patriot, bitch? And Patriot missile, essentially, I don't know if you guys know this or not, it was basically like that Screamer Nerf football where it had the whistler on it, where if you went, you could hear it whistle as it flew overhead.
It was bright orange and soft.
And it was actually endorsed initially by John Elway.
Yeah, and it glows in the dark as well, which is really cool.
Yeah,
it was released by fifth graders with slingshots, with very powerful slingshots. This part, not so great environmentally, the Gulf War. Iraqi combat engineers created trenches, filled them with oil, and lit them on fire to slow, almost like moats. They made these burning oil moats to slow us down and keep the U.S. Marines from landing. The amount of oil they spilled, 4 to 11 million barrels, way bigger than the Exxon Valdez oil spill. To make matters worse, none of it was cleared up on Saudi Arabian shores. It was just such a massive environmental disaster.
Well, that's not necessarily true because in I think it was mid 90s, they actually brought Zach and Jesse and Slater all went over and they helped and they cleaned up that duck.
That's right.
Yes.
The Dawn soap.
Yeah, it was.
They did. True. They washed the duck, the oil spill. While they used oil as their weapon, the 610 oil fires that were set by Iraq destroyed 85% of Kuwaiti's oil wells. The total amount of oil burned, over 1 billion barrels, worth $2.8 billion. And as we know, another lasting effect of this war is the Gulf War syndrome. We talk about Afghanistan and Iraq and the burn pits that we dealt with. So many of these troops are suffering with, it was like a slow burn kind of, but a lot of these veterans are facing some pretty nightmarish effects from living in that smoke for, even though it was only a few months living in that smoke. An interesting tactic on our end. Did you ever see the movie Blazing Saddles?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Where they built the fake town.
Could not make that movie today.
Could not make it
no
today.
Shot.
Absolutely
No
not. No, definitely
I
not.
started watching it in my office because it was on Amazon Prime and I was like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, have you seen now with the movies that are made in the 90s and earlier, they put the disclaimers out at the beginning of the movie that
they do that on Disney
before.
Plus too. Like if you watch like the old version of Peter Pan or whatever, like this is racially insensitive. It's not something that we would do, but it's a classic. So we left it alone.
Well, in that movie, they make this fake town. They build it in like a couple days to trick these bad guys that are coming through and divert them from the real town. So they build this fake town, like come over to this fake town instead, and the real town will be saved. Well, we did that. We kind of went blazing saddles on their asses. We built fake bases to trick Iraqis into defending the wrong area. The U.S. Army set up Fob Weasel by the Kuwaiti border. It was a network.
Good name.
It was this network of fake camps, but only several dozen soldiers manned it. With computer-controlled radios, they sent messages between fictitious headquarters sections. They had smoke generators, loudspeakers that played pre-recorded truck and tank noises, and inflatable Humvees and helicopters. Inflatable.
I wish they would have just called it Fob Goofin.
Fob Goofin. I wish that they had kept these inflatable Humvees and helicopters and resold them for pools and stuff and lakes now.
Oh,
Those would
man,
be
yeah.
great.
Sick with
Dude,
that
if you
debate.
could go out on a full out float of a 7-ton, that would be
That'd be so fun.
unbelievable.
You down the Jersey Shore, like down a while above my Peg, people get giant floats and they'll like anchor them to the
Mhm.
beach and be floating all day. If I could roll up on that with some cigarettes, oh my God, I'd be the most popular lady in Jersey.
So, no, go ahead, Kate. Continue.
nope.
Sorry. So I was saying, like, it was just as we're going through this story, it kind of occurred to me. Obviously, there were conflicts in the military after the end of our involvement in Vietnam in the late 70s and then into the 80s, but nothing on any sort of large scale. So I'm just picturing when we had this opportunity to go into Kuwait and fight Saddam, like the people sitting there planning. So how many troops should we send? Like 50,000? Be sure. Like they were just so antsy for a large scale conflict that they just went completely overboard. You know, when you were reading
in
those
hindsight,
numbers.
probably smart like to do that. Where I mean, one of Mattis's rules of combat is don't go in unless you have a way to emphatically achieve victory. Maybe we shouldn't have pussyfooted around for so long and we would still be there.
Yeah, and it was actually closer to 700,000 now that I'm looking. 697,000 U.S. troops took part in the war.
That's crazy.
And 299 lost their lives, and many more since because of the effects of the environment that they were in. The lungs, cancer, all sorts of crazy stuff. If you look up Gulf War syndrome and stuff from that era, not great. And then the film Jarhead's based on it. Huzzah!
And I still am a firm believer that Jamie Foxx's role as a staff sergeant there is the most accurate portrayal of a Marine staff NCO I've ever seen. It's much more so than R. Lee Ermey in Full Metal Jacket. He is exactly what most staff NCOs are like.
And what's crazy about the statement you just made,
want to be like, I should say.
Right. What's crazy though about what you just said is R. Lee Ermey actually was the drill sergeant. Jamie Foxx clearly, we all know, was not in the military. So the fact that he did it even better than R. Lee Ermey says something about Jamie Foxx's acting ability.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody about R. Lee Ermey, and I think a lot of it is because he, you know, like it's when you have a caricature of yourself where you like Dave's personality is Dave's personality, but when he's on camera, it's a little extra Dave. And maybe that's what R. Lee Ermey was doing there, is like, this is a little bit extra. Or maybe that's just the way it was in the 70s that people did act like that. But now I think Jamie Foxx is legitimately like the best one.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I love that movie.
Yeah. And at the end of the show, we weren't planning on doing this, but at the end of the show, when Cons and I first started Zero Block 30, we actually had one of the gentlemen who was portrayed in Black Hawk Down. After we sound the retreat today, we'll let you hear that interview again because it's been a while. It's been like 4 years, so we might as well play it for the new listeners that haven't had a chance to hear it.
Was Black Hawk Down part of Gulf War?
No, sure wasn't. Nope. Completely different conflict altogether, but something triggered Japs' brain.
Yeah,
that was in weird. Somalia, completely other country. Okay. But hey, let's still do it.
Somalia was this week too, wasn't it? Wasn't Somalia?
No, Somalia was October.
There was a start.
I answered a Somalia question on Jeopardy last night. That's where
there you go. There we go. We're putting it all together. Yeah. Now. There we go.
There you go. Because I was going to brag about that because I was the only. It was a final Jeopardy question, and I got it, and none of the other people did, and my wife thought I was a genius.
Whoa,
there we go. Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
That was embarrassing. Let's move on to round. Let's move on to round number 5. Second week in a row, we've had a story about an Army guy doing some weird shit. Cons, would you care to explain?
Oh my God, this is just not good. But anyway, and look at his picture, that goofy little idiot. Anyway, a U.S. service member has been arrested and charged in connection to an alleged plot to conspire with ISIS to conduct ambush attacks on his fellow soldiers. PFC, let me say that again, PFC, Cole James Bridge. It's always crazy when it's the 3 names that these people end up having. Anyway, he's a Cav Scout assigned to 3rd Infantry Division at Fort Stewart, Georgia, allegedly, quote, attempted to provide military tactical training and advice to ISIS to facilitate the efforts of ISIS fighters to repel U.S. Special Forces and kill American soldiers. Well, ISIS, you might want to get your money back. Yeah. While his radicalization apparently started as early as September 2019, Bridges, who also went by Cole Gonzalez, wasn't on the FBI's radar until he conducted a series of communications with undercover agents and a confidential source posing as fellow ISIS adherents over an encrypted messaging app starting in October 2020. During these convos, Bridges establishes himself as a supporter of ISIS, not cool, and its mission to establish a global caliphate. According to the complaint, at one point suggesting that an undercover agent who thought he was an ISIS fighter scout out the 9/11 memorial in New York City for a potential attack on United States soil. So, I mean, it just goes on to give more detail about how he decided to work with ISIS. And I joke, but ISIS, you couldn't find anybody else. You couldn't find somebody with a little more experience than this lowly PFC.
Yeah, and he's giving them advice that like you clearly just learned in boot camp. Like when you're patrolling, stay far apart from each other so a grenade can't take you all out. Like you just learned that in boot camp. I remember.
Don't hug the wall. If you hug the wall, that's a fatal funnel.
Yeah. And he's just giving them all this, like he's sending them diagrams of like pieing off a doorway, like basic shit that you would get in it goes on and on and on, but what an absolute fucking moron. And do you think ISIS was just laughing? They're like, oh, we're letting this PFC think he's somebody. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I really don't. Like if this happened, if this type of thing happened in 2003, 2004, where people were sympathetic to the other side and you didn't join knowing that 9/11 was going to happen or something like that, it would make a little bit more sense to me. Like if you were a terrorist sympathizer in that regard. Now, like joining now, knowing what the mission has been for the last 20 years, it makes even less sense.
Wait, what?
Like I could see if you're going to war with somebody and it's fresh and new and you have ideology that is on like in line with who the new enemy is, I could see like you like having more of that type of thing back then. Now it's 20 years into it. Why the fuck are you in the army?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, why would you join and then do this? He's telling them, and some of the FBI were like kind of pretending to be the ISIS, and they're like, hey, what would you do if American troops were in this compound? And he's basically saying like rig the house with explosives and blow it up. Like he's talking about killing his fellow soldiers.
Which obviously is terrible, but also like you could have learned that from playing video games or watching a lot of movies. It's almost like the guys in Scream. It's like, how did they learn how to be killers? They watched a lot of movies.
I learned how to pie by playing 007 on 64.
Yeah. Oh man, what an all-time great game. But it's just ridiculous that ISIS couldn't have found like this is. I just lost so much respect for ISIS that they decided to resort to talking to this PFC and like, oh, this guy's got the.
That's not like I'm not even mad at you. Like just lost a lot of respect. You're just disappointed in ISIS.
Yeah, you lost respect for ISIS, Cons? No.
Damn.
Well, my thing is, as this being a PFC, we talk about having a case of like the I wish a motherfucker woods. When you're brand new in the military and you need somebody to share what your knowledge with who doesn't know. So like, that's why when you go home from boot camp, you're in your driveway showing your mom what a hip toss is, you're like, check this shit out. Maybe this guy didn't have an outlet of civilian friends that he could show this stuff to. And so he was like, well, who else can I tell it to? And ISIS was like, hey, you come
what
talk
do
to
you
us.
think the chances they have to stick this dude in protective custody?
So other troops don't beat the shit out of him?
I would say pretty high.
Pretty high.
Yeah, I was going to say
Pretty
100%.
high. I wanted to beat the shit out of him reading it. So, yeah.
You know what the problem with this PFC is? He just didn't have a mother who loved him. He was probably coming home from boot camp. Mom, what do you want? I just want to show you what I learned in boot camp. I don't have time. And then next thing you know, he's talking to ISIS.
Right. He didn't
Classic
have
Cons blaming it on a woman instead of taking responsibility. Unbelievable. Sad to see.
Classic.
All right, let's move on that sad note. Let's move on to save rounds and alibis. Cons, we'll start with you. Hopefully it's not about how you hate women again.
It's old Florida Cons, by the way. Old Florida, hating women down in Florida. I see you sitting out by the pool right now in a screened-in patio. Looks lovely.
I'm here to make a statement, and I will stand by this statement. I think the Gulf Coast of Florida is better than the Atlantic coast of Florida. That's where I stand. That's my personal belief. I just got an email this week. This kind of hurts a little bit. I'm on the planning committee for my 15-year college reunion. So
Ooh.
this fall this May, I will be out of college for 15 years. And just hearing that out loud, it just kind of hurts my soul a little bit. Like, what happened? Where did those 15 years go?
Getting old.
Whatever. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
All right.
Also, I'm here to
timeline.
say, sorry. Taps, can you confirm whether or not you do in fact have a crush on President Joe Biden?
Well, I wouldn't say I have a crush on him. I'm an admirer from the past. I've been looking at pictures of Joe Biden as a young, youthful man.
Yeah.
And I told my pal Sean, who on Twitter, he's hilarious, a hilarious follow. His name is Gay Black Vet on Twitter. He is a hilarious dude. And I told him that if it was back in the day, young Biden just gets elected to the Senate, knowing what he went through, I would be a power bottom for Joe Biden.
Okay.
Hey, check out and About Pod. We talk all about power bottoms on a recent
That's
episode.
true. All right, Kyle, what about you?
Just want to push the YouTube again. Go check it out. We got all the episodes up. Watch them. It's more work. And if you people don't start watching them, you're all on fucking fire watch until you start watching them. So go ahead, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, leave a nasty comment about cons hating women. We don't care. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that's all I got.
All right, Kate.
That Humvee that was stolen that we were talking about in the last episode out in California, and people who mostly civilians were like, oh no, they're going to use it for the insurrection. And we're like, no, they're going to find it broken down on the side of the highway. That's what happened. The FBI in Los Angeles found it broken down on the side of the highway. So it's back to where it once belonged. And it looks like shit. It looks like it's been through some shit. It's like abandoned in an underpass. And looks like people got sick of it and just bounced. So there you have it.
That would be cool though, to have a Humvee that it doesn't matter what happens to it, and you could just drive it as recklessly as you want in a closed, safe environment, of course.
That's called being in the
not have to
military.
Yeah,
cunts.
that's being an E3 or an
We've been
E4 with a
doing that.
license.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all that is.
No,
Good
fuck
point.
it.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
All right,
can't believe
I don't really have anything either. I just like to remind everybody that Desert Storm and Somalia are actually not the same thing. So
Yeah, thank you.
But here's that interview with
Yeah.
Master Sergeant Eversman.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's on the retreat.